Hi, everybody, and welcome along to Meet Your Trading Experts live and free. It's great to have your company today. My name is Paul Botterill. I'm the founder of Access to Wealth and Online Trading Profits. And I have my guest today with us, Mr. Lloyd Pung. Now, I met Lloyd many years ago. Hey, mate. I met Lloyd many years ago. And look, the first time I met him was on a trading event, an IFP type event. And the truth is I don't actually remember him from there. Where I do remember Lloyd from is the first Bali trading retreat. And the trading retreat was a big deal for us. We weren't really sure how it was going to go, and there were some real concerns about what happened when you mixed, professional traders and clients, and how that would work, and we would get a bit pushy, and we would be uncomfortable. And so we did the first one, and we had about 10 traders or staff in total, and about 10 clients in total. And Lloyd and Charlene stayed down the road in the little cheapy accommodation, and wandered in each day. And during that event, I got used to a couple of things around that event. First was that any time that we were in the room, Lloyd and Charlene were in the room. And anytime we were out for dinner, Lloyd and Charlene were out for dinner. So they would literally get to the room at 7:30 in the morning, stay there until 10:30 at night, come out for us and have a couple of beers and a chat. And maybe if Paul hadn't got the guitar out, to sing along till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then be back in the room at 7:30 the next day. And the commitment really impressed me. But more importantly, the ability to have these people come out and spend time with us and just chat and fit in and sing when we sung and drink when we drank, and not just sit there and badger us. The real fear for the traders is that you bring the clients along every time we go anywhere. We just get badgered for information. And what happened was a far more natural transfer of knowledge, because we were just talking about all kinds of things, including trading. And it gave me the real confidence and the belief that we could do this, that I could get more traders there, because the clients were really happy to learn when it was learning time and socialize when it was socializing time, and not just batter the traders, So my first real memory of Lloyd is that event. And he came to the second event and did the videography for us. And a lot of the videos you guys see from Bali, Lloyd did. In that stage, he was still a videographer and part-time trader. And by the time of the last Bali trading retreat, Lloyd was a trader and doing some voluntary videography work only at that point. Lloyd, I guess the point of today for me is to see if we can get through the journey and what was important to you in the journey, what actually worked and what didn't work, and what are the lessons that from your journey that could have the other people listening to this show put into action and get an advantage from. And look, the first thing I want to ask you, when I met you initially, you started trading with us. You were trading with Saha and Charlene. They were beginners when you were beginners. You started at the same time. There were very different personalities involved in that. Was it an advantage? What were the advantages and disadvantages of starting with equals as opposed to mentors in your trading community?
Hi, everyone. Yeah. So I think the real advantage of starting together with Charlene and Saha at then is that I don't see them as someone who knows more than me. Neither do I see them as someone who is beneath me. We all started at the same place. Yeah. So I rather see them as friends. Yeah. So the advantage of that is that because we are all equally blurred, so we don't have the authority to put down one another. Yes. But what we do have is the authority to, not the authority, the responsibility to help each other out at times. Yeah, because we all don't know what we are really going after. So instead of pulling each other down, why not just support each other at times? Yeah. So I would say that's the clear-cut advantage of at times means starting off with Charlene and Saha. Now, but at the same tune, there's also a disadvantage, is because, like I mentioned just now, we don't know what we don't know. So same for all three of us. So what happens is, within a group dynamic, there will always be someone who is slightly more leading. And I think, unfortunately, at that point of time, that person is me, being more vocal. So because we don't know a lot of things, and they can't really say my thoughts at them that I'm wrong. Now, and what happens is that because nobody say I'm wrong, then I will assume that I'm right. And that is a very, very bad thing. Yeah. So in trading or in any other thing, it's because once it happens, I think I'm right. The next time, I still think I'm right. And then it sort of fits into my ego. And well, ego is not really a trusted partner for trading. Yeah.
You look, it really isn't. One of the things that I do like about this approach, Lloyd, is that in truth, everybody who starts trading would like to start trading with someone trading with them who was a pro. But the truth is, if you do that, you'll just learn to trade like that pro, and that may or may not be the right approach for you. Whereas when you start with a peer, you've got to find your own way, right? No one has the way.
Yeah. I forgot to touch on that. Is that what you're saying? What I'm hearing is that when I would, at that point, we want answers. The thing is that if I started with someone who knows what to do, who knows what they are doing, I'm not learning. Basically, every time I'm wrong, I will look for answers to that person. So I won't be learning as fast compared to people who my friends that I'm starting off together. Yeah, because if we don't know together, we will seek the answers on our own and learn together. But being with a pro, that means right at the start, I think that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just that the nature of being in a group dynamic is that we will start looking for people to feed us answers instead. Yeah. So starting off as a group, everybody who is on the same page, there's a real advantage in that because we all start to feed off each other and learn together. Yeah.
And you guys are literally, you guys literally met each other on one of our programs, right? You came along, you met each other on one of our programs, and then you started trading together. And you and Charlene still trade together to this day to some degree, right? You're still in chat groups. I know I'm in a chat group with you guys on stocks, amongst other things.
Yeah. So we still chat. Well, we still chat with you. And then I think I still on and off. Charlene and I we still talk about stocks. What is a value buy? How to take advantage of a particular situation, like especially during the pandemic. Of course, she being a dividend investor will have a slightly approach than me, but generally will be kept aware of what is happening, and then it'll be up to us how to take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's the thing about the community, isn't it? It's not about someone telling you what to do. It's about being aware of the opportunities. At the end of the day, there's a lot of different things going on out in that world, and being aware of the right opportunities is a really good thing. Now, look, when you joined, I know that you'd through your past, I think through some martial arts and diving, you'd done some teaching, you'd done some instructing. But one of the things that was an issue for you was that in this scenario, you were going to be coached. I don't think you'd been coached a lot previously. How did you adapt to that?
I wasn't coached even a single bit. So being coached is an entirely new concept to me. And it's a very, very tough pill to swallow. I'm very used to, I would say in the context of Singapore, as a nation, we are very being used to being taught, being instructed on what to do. Just do this. That's in the past. But being coached is something that I have to learn to trust someone who I don't know. I have to learn to be open up and expose my vulnerability and allow myself, not say being judged, but being led along the correct path. Yeah. So that's something really, really extremely hard for me to swallow and to do. Yeah. But eventually, I accepted coaching or the nature of coaching because there are some answers, there are some things in along the path of trading I cannot derive an answer no matter how much I Google. Or rather, because Google gave me so many answers, I don't know what is the correct answer.
That's the thing about trading, isn't it? I mean, I could Google any topic you wanted to right now, Lloyd, and I can find you 5 different answers in 5 seconds, right? One of the problems with trading is that, look, the recent back testing we did, one of the things that showed to me was that so much of the stuff that's out there is just, just rubbish. I mean, it just doesn't work. And there's people who get stuck searching for everything, and they just find, from my view, trap after trap after trap. Things that look really good. And look, it's not the hardest thing in the world to find something on a chart that looks amazing afterwards. But that doesn't mean that live being able to do it is quite the same. But one of the things about coaching, which I think is culturally really interesting, obviously I've coached around the world and coached different people, and coaching is about leading people to the knowledge, not giving them the knowledge, right? So what you're trying to do is have them self-discover it. And I think inside some cultures, there's a real expectation that learning is about being given the knowledge and then doing something with it, as opposed to being asked to find the knowledge. And I think it can be quite challenging in some cultures when you are coaching and when you're being coached, the different expectations that do exist around it. Was that one of your issues?
I would say yes. And probably to add on is that being coached means that not just me opening up, it's also the coaches at then, or rather you at then, is that you have to understand my insecurities. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you can tell me a strategy, how it works, the drawdown, whatever it is. But let's say you're giving me a strategy which has a 30% win rate, and I have to allow the trade to run. But if my nature is that, colloquially, what we say, a kancheong spider, I have to take my profit fast, that strategy would not work for me 99 out of 100 times. And you have to understand that part, and then try to lead me along the way to somehow modify the strategy to fit my own. Yeah. So that is very different from instructing and teaching, because instructing and teaching, you don't have to understand me. You just give me and tell me what to do. Yeah.
It's weird how when money and winning and losing becomes involved, a lot of things you can just tell people what to do and they will just do it. But when money and winning and losing is involved, people do have a different reaction to it. A Tanjong spider? Is that what you said?
Kancheong spider. That means anxious spider, because the 8 legs, they blurry moving. Yeah.
It's one of the things we've done in our own organization, isn't it, Lloyd, where different senior traders, you included, have added other ones of the trading team come along and sort of copy them for a period of time. But in the end, their personality couldn't trade the same way. They've got to go and find, look, everyone at the end of the day can actually take the same entry. That's not the hard part. It's how you manage it that's got to line up really with who you are as a person, right?
Yeah. So learning, I'll second what you said completely. Taking the same entry is not hard. But like nowadays, what I've changed into, or rather I've learned to fit myself into, is that once I take the entry, I walk away. The chart will do what it wants, the price will do what it wants. I don't look at it anymore. But some people just cannot sleep with that. They just have to, before I sleep, let me look at the chart one more time. Probably I should take a partial profit. Probably I should shift my stop loss to entry, and doing whatever they need to do. But whatever they are doing at then wasn't part of the strategy at all. It's part of their nature.
Yeah, and look, it's really interesting. One thing, we've done this, and you've been part of helping us with this. We've done this world of backtesting over the last month and had all these guys helping us. And one thing that really comes through is that if you can leave the strategies alone that are looking for big targets, you make great money. But boy, it's one of those things that's so easy to say, but it's not naturally an easy thing to do for many people. And again, for some people, it really is. I tend to be one that, I'm a bit like you, Lloyd. I don't really even want to watch it. I just want to put it on and have a target, and I'll come and have a look later on. And if it's there, great. And if it's, if it's just short, I might take a bit of money, but I don't like to muck with it very much at all. Look, for those that are joining us today, welcome into the Zoom room. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you have any questions for Lloyd, put them in the chat box and I'll make sure we get them asked of him today. We've got an hour with Lloyd, but what we're trying to do today is talk about his trading journey and the lessons from it. What were the things that he looks back on and thinks, well, if other people knew that, it would help them in this journey. If you've got any questions for Lloyd, ask them now. Look, it's often, I think, even a year ago, Lloyd was one of the sort of unknowns in the trading group. And I think perhaps after the last live Bali retreat, it started to change when a lot of the senior traders started talking about you as one of the guys to talk to. But if you're looking to have a chat about trading, find you, because you've got a view on most things. You're very well researched. You've got very wide-ranging knowledge. So we can have a chat with you about just about anything. And you still publish some amazing stuff into our team chat. It's been a different profile, really, hasn't it? Over the last 12 months, your profile in the organization has grown quite a lot, really.
First of all, I would say I will contribute to, because nobody ever says I'm wrong. Because in trading and investing, I don't really think there's anything that is absolutely wrong. It's just that when someone or me share an idea, we genuinely think that particular piece of knowledge will be beneficial in some way. But how would the other party make use of that knowledge? That's entirely that person's ability. Yeah. So I think this is wonderful for Actions to Wealth as a group, because we are so diverse. There are some traders, there are some option traders, stocks traders. we generally just bounce along ideas, me and some others, and yeah, it does have some interesting impact at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Lloyd. I figure, you're an interesting guy because I can ring you up one day and say, hey, we need some help with some testing. Can you spend a couple of days helping me? And generally, you're going to have a couple of days, and you're going to say, you're free to do it, right? That's the whole trading freedom thing, right? But at the same time, I know that you're in a chat group with you're doing some work with. Sorry, I just lost my place in the questions. I know that you're in a chat with Julian. I know that you're doing some work with Julian. I know that you're in a chat with Ash. I know you're in a chat with Charlene. You're in another chat with myself around some stock stuff as well. You're doing all of that. You're trading Forex, and you're doing a lot of other stuff as well. What's the stuff outside of Forex that's caught your interest? You do a bit of stocks. What else do you do?
Outside of trading and investing, I assume. Nowadays, actually just last month, I've been more involved in the charity. I think it's just last week, or rather since last year, I've involved in something called, I forgot the term, CWA. So what happens is that I'll go cycling, I'll go to old folks home or hospital in the morning. So I'll bring those elderly and cycle and in a trolley, bring them out, cycle along the parkway. Yeah, because they being caught up in the hospital or the orphanage, or sorry, old homes, is just not mentally healthy.
Retirement home sort of thing. Yeah. Awesome, mate. That's nice to see the team in their own way. Look, it's one of those things, right, where really effective charity isn't about giving $1 billion to somebody. Really effective charity is about affecting a group of people's lives in some small way. And across the team, and there's a lot of nice stuff people do. I really appreciate it. Look, I want to talk to you about back on the trading stuff a little bit. Mm-hmm. My experience, and we're trying to get an understanding of stuff. And I've watched your journey pretty close over the time, Lloyd. And one of the things that I know that you've done at times, right, is I know that there's been stuff that you've done that you knew wasn't right and it didn't work, but you still did it. And when I say I know you did that, that's because I know that every single trader in the world's done it. Why do we do it? Why do we do stuff that deep down we know isn't that good?
I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I would say, particularly for myself, I'll guess is that because I have a stubborn streak in me. So the thing is that you can tell me something is wrong. And like I mentioned just now, coaching, I have to learn to trust you. So at the time, without knowing that it's absolutely wrong, why should I trust you? But there are some things in life whereby I don't need to trust you. I know it's wrong. So it's utterly stupid. Yeah, I would say it's utterly stupid to go 35% in a trade. Yeah, but at that time, I would still do it. If you ask me at that why, I would say I have this huge ego that says that I'm definitely going to be right for whatever reasons, because I've done a lot of reading. I've done the necessary. I think I'm going to be right. So let's just, why 1%? Why limit myself to that? Why not just go 25% in? So the logical side in my head is that, look, it's damn stupid to put 25% in any investments, scams, or trades. The logical side would say that's not very clever. But the ego side would say, just do it. What's the worst that can happen? You lose only 25%. And well, the thing is that the worst is I don't lose 25%. I will lose 25% more than once. And that hurts pretty bad.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things, isn't it, where I do have a question for you. So you're a trader, you're an investor, and we teach, and inside our organization, we teach 1% risk, and we mean 1% of your Forex account. But for larger investors, if you're looking to make investments, would you, for instance, if you, I don't want to make up figures, but would you be prepared to say, well, my net investment is this, so I can put 1% of that into a Forex trade as opposed to what's in my account? Or would you keep it to a percentage of your account?
Sorry, I don't quite understand that. Can you?
Well, I'm going to use some numbers, right? Oh God, that wasn't so good. So if you have, let's say in round terms, if you have $10,000 that you invest, I'm keeping the numbers really low, but you have $1,000 in your Forex account. A lot of investors will trade at 1% of 10,000 because that's their investment bundle, if you like. Yeah. We teach that it's 1% of your trading account because that's what we can control. if you've got bigger, do you base your investment risk on your whole portfolio as a percentage of that, or on the small areas that you have some money?
I would still highly advise for myself, anyone that is that base the 1% on the sub portfolio. Yeah, the reason being that the primary reason why we have different portfolios, let's say again the $10,000, right? I take $1,000 out, that means 10% of my entire portfolio, is because at the bottom of my heart, I already knew this 10% represents possibly a high risk investment.
Yeah, so you've apportioned your $10,000 into different areas to balance up the overall portfolio, and then inside each one you trade them appropriately for the size of that account.
Correct. Yeah.
We'd like to be some guys in our, there's a few guys listening to us that have been doing pretty well on crypto recently, and they've dragged some money out of it, and deciding at what point to put their money into other things will be one of the great, but the guys that get that right in crypto will be the guys that really make it. The guys who work out when it's time to say, okay, well, actually, I'm going to take some of this, I'm going to put it back in stuff that's going to make me less money, but I'm not going to get to the top and take the risk at the top. They're the guys that will leave with the money, and that's what it's really all about. Mate, so we talked about sometimes when you're trading that, and this is my experience as well, that sometimes you do things that deep down you know are wrong, but you just do them because you want to do them. And, we just lack discipline. And when I say we, all of us have done it, and sometimes we get ourselves into trouble. And in your trading journey, at times you've stumbled. And when you've stumbled and been frustrated and had enough, and again, I think every learner trader is going to go through that at some stage in their life. They're going to have a bad week or month or whatever it is. What got you back, and how'd you get back?
I stumbled 3 times, by the way. I hope that's not too much. I hope there won't be a fall. What got me back? Actually, I'll rephrase that is no one is keeping me out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anybody is getting me back, but the more important thing is no one is keeping me out. How do I put that? Because again, when I stumbled and fell, of course, at then Charlene is there to, I wouldn't say help me, but she's there good enough to tell me to take a break. Yeah. Essentially, she's acting like a safety barrier because she's a much more conservative investor than me at that time. So when I should take a break, she would just lightly tell me, and then I myself need to have the hunger to come back to this game. Now, I think what's important to me at that point is that when I come back, no one is overreacting. Oh, welcome back. Oh, let's start it all over again. No. At the time, that particular group of friends is that whether me leaving or whether me taking a break or whether me coming back, they all see it as possibly part and parcel of my journey. They just treat it as, look, that's the way, that's the norm. You're back, let's get back into the routine again. Yeah. So I wouldn't say they are a crutch that helps me, but rather, while I take a break, they're still walking the pathway. And to me, I see that there's still a way. Yeah.
Charlene has a bit of a gift, doesn't she, about that ability to just get on. I'm with you, no matter if you have a break because you've stumbled, when you come back, no matter how much people are trying to support you, it feels a bit like they're rubbing your nose in it. And they don't mean to do that, but it just feels that way, and just be able to walk back in and have things be the same. It's like those classic long-term friendships you have in the world with people you don't see that often, where you just get back together with them and it's the same. And if you can do that with your trading buddies, it's a real genuine level of support, isn't it? She does seem to have a special ability to just take people as she finds them and not be too judgy,
Yeah, I think you said a keyword is maybe me, but I definitely hate being judged. But as long as I don't feel that there's someone is there to judge me, then that means there's no one hindering me from getting back. I would say that's a key difference between trading friends and normal friends. So at that point, my normal friends at then, they knew I'm getting to Forex, something new for me. So they knew I lose money and possibly lose more than a bit of self-esteem. So when I wanted to get back, the natural, I would say their response to me at that was, why are you still doing that dumb thing again? Because they see Forex as gambling. Because unlike stocks, which they knew I'd get which I'm okay with, good at, stocks naturally they link it with there's an intrinsic value in buying to the company.
Yep.
But forex, they purely see that gambling. So they were not actively trying to stop me from getting back, but you knew they kind of implied that the words they were using. Yeah. So be it dramatic or otherwise, that's kind of disheartening. Yeah. But whereas for trading friends, even from and then the ATW group is there's nothing dramatic about it. Oh, you're back. Okay. Yeah, let's get on.
Yeah, nice, isn't it? Sorry, man, I've got half the world messaging me in the middle of the show. Sorry about that, man. Look, I wanted to talk to you about the evolution of learning, I guess. So when you started off, you've got questions. At the times you've stumbled, you've got questions. When you're professional, you've got questions. How do those questions evolve as you go through the process, and how do you get them answered?
That's interesting to me. Starting out as a learner, my questions at then is more of why. Why did that happen? So, and without fail, every single time, my answers to those questions would always be excuses. So in the context, like, why did I get stopped out? I think I followed the strategy. So why did I get stopped out? And then there will be 1,000 different excuses. Or that's an institutional move, or that's a stop hunting move. So the questions at that is, I would say, irrelevant to me today is whatever happened has happened. And my answers to it at that were excuses whereby anything or anyone can be wrong except me. Yeah, which is not very productive to my learning at then. Yeah, because I was always finding excuses. And of course, I make the
This is the new trader, right? This isn't just you. This is the new trader. And again, we all go through it where, somehow as a new trader, we feel like we know a bit better than the $4 trillion market. And that it's honestly, at the time of my trading career, I genuinely believed the $4 trillion market had a personal problem with me. And knocking me over out of spite. And it's amazing where your mind takes you in these times on the journey through, right? But I think that is the mind of the retail trader, isn't it? Of blame. It's not my fault. It's not my fault, and it's not my fault. It's not my strategy. It's all this external stuff that's causing it. And truthfully, that's not from my experience of coaching. That's not normally the case.
Yeah, I would even blame you too, Paul.
You won't be the only person to ever blame me.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's basically the gist of my learning at then. Yeah, try to find every excuse I can. Then obviously, like I mentioned just now, I sort of stumbled 3 times. And luckily, I came back 3 times or 4 times. Now, when I stumbled, again, I will still be asking questions. But then, because I'm more open to learning once I stumbled, because I want to come back. So I have to be more open to learning. So rather than asking myself why was I being stopped out, why this happened, why that happened, the questions more or less transition to what happened. Yeah. So I'm more open to learning now. And then of course the answers that I had, what happened, what be it stop out news or whatever happened at that, my approach while I was stumbling and doing my recovery phase is that ask someone who is much more knowledgeable than me, rather than hunting my own answers, rather than blaming. I have to open up somewhat because my approach obviously does not work. So I have to ask people, and you being one of them. At that, of course, Chloe, Mikey, love Mikey a bit. His advice to me at that was always follow the rules first. If you're not making money, why not just do a simpler stuff? Follow the rules first. You may not know what happened, but just follow the rules. Yeah. So he urged me along that path. Yeah. So that's when I start to appreciate the system. Yeah. Of course, nowadays when I make it my own, again, my questions change. Rather than finding out what's happened in the markets, I will learn to take the. I have to clarify my second stage, which is the stumbling and recovering. I'm still not taking responsibility for my actions. I'm simply just follow the rules. You see, follow whatever the template that has been given to me, but I'm not necessarily taking responsibility for it. Yeah. So the third stage where I make it now is that I'm starting to take responsibility by being reactive to the market, really studying the market. Look, market is doing this now. What sort of strategies can I employ? Actively participating in it. Yeah. So I don't really care in a trade. I don't really care whether I stop out or I take profit because that's the expected process.
Yeah. But both things are going to happen at various times, right? Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. That's part of it, right?
Yeah. So the questions nowadays I have for myself is more, hey, this happened enough number of times. I'm able to observe it. Am I able to take advantage of it? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I really like this, Lloyd. I hope that people at home are getting a lot out of this. Hope you're learning a lot from it. If you have any questions, throw them in the questions box. You can do that on YouTube or Facebook, and Mai will put them into the room with us if you're in the room. If you have any questions for Lloyd, throw them in the box and I will get him to answer it. One of the things, Lloyd, that I think is, one of the cool things about trading. It's one of those things that's quite frustrating at times, but one of the really cool things about trading is that everybody's journey is different. It's not the same as 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 2 = 3. It's different. Everyone has a different journey, right? And I think one of the big keys to your success for mine has been starting to understand who you are as a trader. That I think you understand who you are around risk, and I think you understand who you are about the opportunities that you hunt. What can you tell us about that process?
Understanding myself, I think that's not hard, but accepting what I want is hard. That's really the tough case. What I meant by that is that, look, at the end of the day, what I want is very simple: money out of the market. I mean, that's what everybody wants from trading. Yep. But accepting my expectations, that's the hard part. Or rather, moderating my expectations, that's the hard part. Yeah. So again, I have a plethora of traders that I can follow. You, Jeff, Mikey. And I won't lie, at that, the most shining star that I want to follow was actually Jeff. Simply because his strategy has the highest win rate out of yours.
Yep.
Yeah, and that fits into my ego. Because what? A 90% win rate. Who wouldn't want that? But at the same time, what I want is really big winners, which his strategy couldn't provide.
It's sorry I laugh, but it's the difference between what we want and what you can have, right? So you can have the strategy that wins all the time, or you can have the strategy that takes big winners. When people tell you that they've got a strategy that takes big winners and it wins all the time, they are lying to you. It doesn't. Markets don't work that way mathematically. That's not the way that it happens. And I get this thing, right? Because like when we were starting on the slingshot, I traded live with Jeff for about, I think it might have been nearly 3 years. We traded the UK Open, as Ash and Jeff do now. We traded that UK Open session together. We were in a webinar teaching and explaining it for a long time together. And I love the slingshot. I love the technical nature of it. I love the fact that it was really successful. I love that it's really rewarding because you feel like you just literally understand the market. But I was the same. Eventually for me, I had to go into some of the things I did with Jeff a couple of years ago. I just helped him through that process of how do you find bigger winners in that strategy, right? And I had to go and look for bigger winners because we talk about the hunting dog, the falcon and the jaguar. And really by nature, I'm probably one step past the jaguar, the polar bear, which we don't talk about in the education. But I like to go and look for, I'm prepared to take more losses to take bigger winners. And that's a personal thing and people have got to trade their own find. Someone's asked, where are you on this? Where did you settle? So you like the lots of winners, you like the bigger rewards. Where did you settle as a trader?
I was all three at one point. That's not the best thing. To break it down, when I started learning, I'm more like a dog because I was really staring at the screen all day long. Yeah, so you have to understand that I'm a freelance. So when I trade, when I set aside a time for trading, I can literally stare at the screen for 6 hours. Yeah, so naturally, when you have that, by nature or by the act of just staring at the screen, I'm a dog. Yeah, just Any chance that take profit, I will take it. But what I can clarify with you is that straight after taking profit, I will have the instant regret. Why did I take profit when the trade in the next 30 minutes runs up? Why did I take profit? Yeah. So when I stumbled and recovered, I practiced more patience, then become the falcon. Yeah. But and then I was still regretting, why did I have TP1? Why did I take partial profit? So eventually now I trade my own stuff, my own strategy, and trading a wave rider, I've learned to, like the song says, let it go. Yeah. So more of a jaguar. Yeah. Like again, I can just sleep with a trade going on. I don't, nowadays I don't really care when I place a trade. I trust the process. And more importantly, the process is something whereby empirically I have back tested. I have this set of data that I can rely on. Place a trade, walk off. Yeah. So in the past, my computer was switched on 24 hours time. Nowadays, I can clearly say to you that when I look at the screen for trading purposes, I don't look at it for more than 30 minutes for a single day.
Look, I really like that, Lloyd. It's one of the things for mine is that, we're doing this back testing at the moment with the robot trader, which is an amazing tool, right? Its ability to what we're doing, we're coming up with generic settings is awesome. And we just had some new settings coming through for the hourly and the 4-hourly wave rider. Another thing that looks really positive. But the robot trader can do that for every currency individually. So we give it one set across everything. It can do it individually for different currencies. Quite amazing. But when you're talking about backtesting stuff, I don't think that's what you're talking about. While you can automate stuff, as a trader, sometimes you need to get a chart, and the market scan now, you just push plus and you go back a bar and a bar and a bar. And you can just go back and see what you're trading historically and work out how it works. And I think that level of backtesting, you can't do 2 years over 29 currency pairs manually. That you can't get that depth right. But you can go back and have a look at some stuff for a couple of hours over a few days in a row and get really clear what's working, what's not working. And when you do that for yourself, the level of learning is a different level of learning. It goes from being information to knowledge. Information is the printout from Robot Trader, and it's information and it's great. Knowledge is when you do it yourself and you can use it yourself, right? Has a different impact on your own confidence, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm actually doing both. So I don't mind telling you that I spend on myself. I spend I think about 5,000 odd, probably nearer to 8, coming up with my own EA, backtesting and stuff like that. So the thing is that when I plug an EA to a strategy tester, it vomits out a set of data. Now, I can digest the data, but what I cannot digest is this data point what is it actually representing on an actual price chart? It doesn't tell me anything from that nature. But if I do it manually, bar by bar, what happens is that over time, I myself become the indicator. So even without bar by bar looking there, I'll start to look, this is what happened. There's a certain degree what will happen next. So I actually learn from that. There's a conscious learning when looking at bar by bar. So sooner or later, you'll gain this very special ability of this has happened. So that will ought to happen next. Yeah, without even the indicator telling you. And I think that's the beauty of backtesting, and that's the beauty of using indicators, which some people don't like, is that the beauty of backtesting is when you look at the chart, really more and more you'll find that there are certain phenomena within the chart, it will naturally jump out at you, be it from a trend trading point of view or a reversal trading point of view or breakout. There are some things that just jump out at certain traders. Yeah. And you really just need to go back bar by bar, and magically those things will just imprint right in mind.
I'm going to ask you, I think it's a tough question. I love asking tough questions to traders, but I was going to say there's nothing more important than time in front of the charts. But I'm going to ask you, is there anything more important than time in front of the charts?
Time out of the chart.
Really? So do you mean when you say time out of the charts? So you go back and you have a look at charts and you get this stuff. Do you mean time out of the charts? Do you mean the conceptualizing, the coming up with the ideas, or do you mean the riding the bike with the old people in the back and giving them some time out of hospital and making yourself feel good about yourself? When you say time out of the charts, you're talking about trading time out of the charts, or refresh your mind and your soul time outside of the charts?
Refreshing my mind, hitting a reset button. Yeah, it can be both. I mean, I still can be digesting information. The thing is that when I look at charts, let's say after more than 30 minutes, after more than an hour, my mind is so inclined to look at certain things that I have inherently built a bias to looking at those things. Yeah, which again, the word bias, that means it's not good. I have to learn to look at the chart objectively. So after 1 hour in front of the chart, or be it for trading or backtesting, more of the time is actually backtesting. I have to get out the chart, hit a reset button, and try to think of it and digest the information in a very objective manner. So that can be whether I go out night cycling, which I do it almost every night nowadays, or helping people, charity. It can be any of the activities. So time out of the chart allows me to digest the information in a very objective manner, rather than because when I look at the chart, naturally my mind is confined. It's being tunnel vision. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this, Lord. I think this is such a key point, right? The truth is that when you're in front of charts, you do learn things, but again, that level of understanding doesn't come, that aha moment, oh, I get it. That comes when you're thinking about something else and your brain in the background is just ticking this stuff over, and stuff just becomes clear. I very much, I think that's, I think that's really important. I think if you just keep looking and keep looking and keep looking at the charts, you really get nowhere. You've got to look at charts. You've got to have a purpose, and you've got to be prepared to go away. It's like anything. Like for me personally, and again, it may be different for others, but having that break where your mind is turned off and thinking about other stuff. There's a time when the subconscious mind just comes in and goes, oh yeah, what about this? Boom, boom. Oh, here's the answer over here. And you sort of, so oh yeah, that's right. You go back to the charts and I need to go and check that out because that, I missed that somehow. And quite often when you're talking to people about charts, well, my experience is that you start thinking, I remember noticing that a while back, and it comes back to you and it becomes a lot clearer. So that's kind of interesting for mine. So
actually, can I add on that is that when I say time out of the chart, it's also due to one conversation I had with Paul Hutton. Because there was once at hindsight, I actually made quite a stupid remark. Is that I don't know, for one day I just told Paul Hutton, no, Paul, I kind of observed this, that during the Asian session, if price is sort of ranging, it will more or less break out during the London session. And he just looks at me point blank, isn't that obvious? I'm like, then I think back, it's like, yeah, actually I sort of knew that at the back of my head. But in that moment, or rather because of the last 2 days I was looking at the charts continuously, I didn't allow myself to have a reset time. I got so caught up in the moment that something so obvious, I just take it as a holy Bible knowledge. Yeah.
I've got a great comment here. I've been spending a lot of time, 8 to 10 hours in the last 2 weeks. I think it means 8 to 10 hours a day in the last 2 weeks, looking at charts, recording info and doing some back testing. That burned me out. I just want to stop everything and go away, mate. Have a break. And look, one of the things I think this is really normal for people doing education is you learn some stuff, you get excited, and you go back and you go and you boom and then you bust. And really what you need to do is just be really consistent. And some time in front of the charts is super important. It couldn't be more important. But having some breaks and having some clarity around it is I think perhaps for mine just as important. I think there we go. Okay, so I've got a couple of other things for you that sort of spark, so it's around this sort of mental process stuff. So for me, if I was to define your decision-making process, I would say that you're trying to find the thing next to the masses. So just as an example, if everyone's off buying airplane stocks, you're possibly off buying the companies that supply them with food. That you don't follow the masses into the airplane stocks, but you have a look at how that will affect the market. Actually, I was talking to Leon on Sunday night. It was late. The Denmark thing was crazy late. We were talking about stuff, and he was talking about the institutions and how they, how they use they buy the stock and they've got 2 days to pay. And just made me think straight away that if, let's say you're a European bank and you buy a truck of stocks in Australia and the Australian market therefore goes up, you've got to pay for it 2 days later. I do wonder if there's enough volume there to push the Aussie dollar up some stage in the next 2 days, because they've got to go and get some Aussie dollars to pay for that stuff. And these guys aren't buying $10,000 worth. These guys are buying a fair chunk. So it's just an example of, I'm having the conversation with Leon. We're talking about, just talking about, markets and, blah, blah, blah. And, they're talking about, they get the 48 hours and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, wow, I wonder if I can use that. So at some stage in the next 2 or 3 months, I'll sit down and have a little bit of a look on a correlation between small country stocks and the currency in the 48 hours after the moves, and see if there is some variation as the money comes into the currency to buy the product, to pay for the products that have been bought. I think these are the things that trading is all about. Ideas. That could be the biggest pile of hooey in the entire world, right? But at some stage, not tomorrow, but at some stage, I'll spend some time and I'll go back and have a look at some charts and see if I can find a correlation there. And look, if I can't, I'll find something else. I'm looking at the charts, and if I can, we'll keep an eye on that going forward. So we were saying about you, Lloyd, that it's one of your approaches really is to watch the market and find the alley next to the market, not follow them into stuff, but find what they're going to do, how it's going to impact the market, and take advantage of that.
Yeah. Again, that goes back to the point that I don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore. Or rather, in the past, I tried to. For trading, in the past, I would say think out the. My approach is think out of the box, try to reinvent something. That of course doesn't really work. So, and that's for forex trading. So eventually, I go back to my true nature, actual nature, and that's for stock side. Is that I don't really have to invent anything. Why not just follow what people, the obvious, what people is doing, but instead of blindly following them into the hottest thing to the market, I can always consider the supporting factors, the supporting industry, because those industry is gonna move sooner or later. So I don't need to make the biggest money. I want to make money, so why not go for the secondary market? And I think that rings true for forex. In a way, I would say how I would interpret that message is I don't need to trade at the absolute top or bottom. I can always trade at the next higher low or the next lower high. I will still make enough money off that.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to trade the high low, you in the end you'll make more money and you'll lose less, and it's a pretty good place to be. Catching tops and bottoms in forex and trying to get in front of that market is always a little bit difficult. So when you look back on your trading journey, is there any stuff that you knew that you sort of chose to ignore on the journey through? Is there any stuff that you look back on now and when you were young, you thought it worked, then you worked out it didn't work, and now you think it works again? What's been your progress around that kind of stuff?
Your question is sorry, I lose your question.
Look, is there anything that you knew and chose to ignore but is embracing now? And is there anything that you think you knew but were proven wrong and choose to ignore now? What are the things that have changed? What are the things that, let's take an example, right? You were very, very into researching and backtesting indicators for a long period of time. Are you still doing it? Is it still significant? What do you think?
Playing with indicators is really, I would say, part of my hobby now. Yeah, same chart, plug in 1,000 different indicators, it'll tell you 1,000 different stories. Yeah, so that to me is fascinating to know. And but again, how I choose to use those indicators, how I choose to use those tools will be a conscious choice on my part. I don't rely on the indicator, but rather I choose a very specific way of using them. So that actually fascinates me till today. Going back to your question is what I didn't embrace, but I would say risk management is a huge thing. I'll gladly tell you nowadays, none of my trade is actually I trade at 1%. None of my trade I go at 1% because I'm trading 3 strategies. So and the issue with trading 3 strategies is that it's very easy for me to overtrade if I put all 3 1%. And moreover, I trade at other time frames. So there are times whereby I go burst in the past whereby I, without knowing my actions, I'll go burst 5% a day. Yeah. So, but I think from my story is that risk management impacts me in a huge manner. And nowadays, I fully embrace the concept that I'm not a trader. I'm more or less a risk manager. Yeah, I can easily trade 4 strategies, 6 strategies, but I can even use a hedging strategy. By the end of the day, if I don't manage my risk, one way or another, I'll still return back my gains to the market. Yeah. So I knew risk was important when I started out. I just disregarded. 25% of trade is not a very clever thing to do. And now I fully embrace it. Because profit at the end of the day is still profit. The only thing that what makes a profit change is my absolute sum, the account is $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million. That will affect my profits, how big it is. As long as I take care of my risk, other things will be taken care of. Yeah, so that's a mantra that I actually embrace it nowadays.
It's one of those things that I think people don't understand, Lloyd, is that just again around numbers, if you make 10% in a year, and during that year you've been up 30%, down 40%, up 20%, down 60%, up 80%, and you make 10%, at the end of the year you're exhausted. Whereas if you make 10% a year and you make 1% a month on 11 months and one drawdown month of 1%, you get there and you're cruising, right? Confidence is high, you're on a great run, and and you feel good about yourself, right? And it's a lot tougher. As risk goes up, it's a lot tougher emotionally. It's tough emotionally at 1% some days. It's a lot tougher as risk blows out on this kind of stuff. Look, I'm going to, in a few moments, I'm going to ask Mai to give away our prize tonight. Our prize tonight is 1 month free of the Strategy Bias Group from Access to Wealth Online Trading Profits. This is the group that does the COT data, the seasonal data, the fundamental data. We've got some big announcements coming on there. I reckon in about 2 to 3 weeks, we've got some interesting new stuff coming on there. The guys who want to say may well get to be part of that. The bias group gives you access to the charts for seasonality, the charts for COT, a 1 hour weekly video on seasonality by a market expert, Ray from Northern Ireland. It gives you currency by currency and product by product overviews of fundamentals and seasonality and COT as well. Huge amount of data in there. Full value $197 a month, and we're going to give somebody a chance to have a month for free. I'm going to ask Mai if you can spin the wheel of fortune. Mai, can you spin the wheel of fortune, please? Let's see if we can get ourselves a winner. In the meantime, guys, if you have any questions for Lloyd, throw them in the questions box, and I will ask him the questions. Otherwise, we'll wind her up in a few minutes and settle them down to do a little bit more back testing.
Actually, can I touch on one thing whereby I just I forgot to mention?
Yeah, mate. Let's do the wheel of fortune and come back to it, okay? Okay, Mai, find us a winner, please. Wayne, if you are in the session, you have got 30 seconds. We'll make it 15 seconds to let us know. Just pop into the chat box and tell us that you're here, and we will organise. Mai will get a hold of James, and James will get the prize to you. Hey. Simon thinks you should give it to Crystal. She didn't miss by 1 again, did she? I don't think she did today. I think we're a little bit further away. The hot run of missing by 1 seems to have passed. Simon, I can see a few messages coming in from you. We'll have a look at them as soon as we're over and get back to you. What were you going to say, mate? You had one thing to add.
Oh, yeah. One thing to add is that just now, again, what I embraced in the past by discarding nowadays is actually news and discussion. I think, make no mistakes, I still enjoy discussions a lot. And just 2 days ago, I had a chat with Ash that fascinates me to no end. But in the past, I would look at news, discussion, especially from the experts. That will impact my trading a lot. Nowadays, I have learned to compartmentalize. News and discussion is good and healthy. But at the end of the day, I will return back to my trading plan. Yeah, as long as whatever I learned, the new knowledge I gained, the news, if it does not fit into my trading plan, I have to put it aside for now. Possibly find another way to make use of it. That will be backtesting and coming up with new strategy. But it will never, whatever I learn new now would not be part of my trading plan. Yeah.
We'll get to that one. Look, that's one of the things that you learn trading on a trading floor. I traded. I sat on the trading floor with 5 other traders. We sat in a group of 6, and we exchanged ideas a heck of a lot. And we talked and we learned, and we learned a huge amount together. Really, I think all 6 of us are still professional traders in some way, shape, or form. And really, we learned how to trade on that trading floor, really. And but we also had to learn the same thing, that the discussions and the knowledge were interesting, but you had to trade your own thing. You had to listen to it all and then make your own decisions and do your own stuff, because it's the only way you got any better. Look, we've got from Hawaii, what is your favorite currency pair, and do you have a specific time of day in a trade to trade?
I don't have a favorite currency pair.
I like the ones that are going to win.
I like the one that is displaying the strongest sign of strength. And I also like the one that is in the weakest currently. I'll just trade 4 of them together. Yeah.
Look, you've actually got a little strategy you've designed yourself, haven't you, where you trade one of the strongest versus one of the weakest, right? Easy. This is a half-hour strategy to learn, and goes along pretty good, doesn't it?
I think the thing is that if I were to teach it, I don't know how to teach it, because I would literally only spend half an hour telling you what's it about, and that's it. Yeah.
Look, I think there's some people who would be more than happy to do that. Sorry, mate, I want to push on. So, and also you're the architect of the STEP strategy.
Yeah. Having fun with that.
Yeah, some guys loving that at the moment. I had a really good week last week. I hear, we're starting to been a good month for paying some people out, and the STEP strategy is starting to turn up for people getting a bit of money. It's nice to see.
I think that's a huge validation to this strategy itself, that people is getting paid out. And on top of that, I would say trend still works, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So Jura's saying he's been trading the STEP strategy profitably, consistently. Thank you. I think one of the guys going to go on to the Morris Capital Accelerator program is trading the STEP strategy and making, again, I really like it, Lloyd, making 3-4% a month. Generally had a good week last week, made a bit more, but I think those kind of strategies that make 2 or 3% a month are really good strategies, stuff that's really consistent. So we'll continue, I think, to teach the new Wave Rider. And look, any few questions about stats on the old Wave Rider, I think we'll leave those till we trade the new Wave Rider. Really, they're a bit redundant, the stuff we did on the old stuff while we're in the middle of changing our strategy. But where was I? It's nice to see different things making different amounts of money, and I really like strategies that make 2 or 3% a month consistently. That's why I like the stuff that Linker does. Linker been through the journey, lost your money, found your approach, and just makes a couple of % a month. And I think people forget how powerful that really is. Just consistently making a little bit of money every month is a great place to be. Rightio, mate. Anything from you before we wind her up?
Probably the last thing from me, which I think is the most useful advice that I can tell you all right now, is that the basics does work. Yeah. Time and time again, when I try to reinvent something new, I'll find myself going back to basics. I think the STEP strategy is a testament to that. Just trade the retracement, trade with trend, and even the currency strength strategy, which I'm working now, is basically the same old basics, just trading the strongest against the weakest. It works. That's all.
It amazes me over the years, Lloyd, how many people that are out there. And I say this stuff with some compassion. I don't mean to sound judgy, but it amazes me the amount of people out there who could never trade the strategy because they believe that strategies have to be complicated. And then if they did trade the strategy, would have one losing week at some point, and they'd add 17 indicators to it and find a way to make it more complicated. It's just the way people believe that it has to be more difficult. And I find it really interesting, because I'm with you, Lloyd, that one of the messages that we talk about quite regularly is that simple things work great. And let the computers do the really complicated stuff, and we'll do the simple stuff. And I think in trading, you better do one thing well than 10 things averagely.
Definitely, yeah. Probably I'll break news to you all is that probably someday I'll share with you, Paul. Is I also found another basic does work. had a very favorable chat with Ash. Is that correlation? That is something actually I learned from you. I think the first year of ATW trading, I learned from you what's correlation. Chuck it at the back of my head. 4 years later, or is it 5 years later now, actually I revisit, I'm like, saw it in a completely new light, and I was like, there's something interesting to be out there.
It's weird how this stuff works, isn't it? I reckon I've seen Julian talk about trading more than any other person on the planet. I mean, Ainsley's done more one-to-one coaching, but I've sat in more rooms with Julian when he's teaching people, and it literally took me 10 years to get that the sentiment cycle was important. I looked at that thing over and over again and just went, who cares? It doesn't matter, who cares? And then all of a sudden I got the higher low thing, and I thought, that is actually the whole thing. It's the whole thing, And I don't know what it is about our minds that, don't know how to explain this, but when you're learning, the thing that you block is the thing that you need. And when you see yourself just sort of being a bit indifferent to stuff, you really want to have a dig around and work out why, because that's often your stuff getting in the way of your learning, from my experience, but it is for me anyway. Mate, I just want to thank you very much, mate. It's been great to have you, and I've been meaning to have you on the show for a little while. We'll have you back, no doubt at all, mate. It's nice to have just a simple chat. Please, we could give away a little bit of a product as well. We'll see you back in a few weeks. I'll see you tomorrow on IFP. Looking forward to that as well, mate. Thanks for your help with all the testing over the last couple of weeks. And in all honesty, mate, thanks for your now long-term friendship as a trader. It's great to have you on the team, and great to have you contributing, and great to have your opinions floating around in the masses of opinions that we have, mate. So thank you very much. Cheers, mate. See ya.
Pleasure, mate.